So if you're wondering what comes in the timing chain kit, we got new gears, 4 new gears, 2 new chains. Interestingly, these don't have yellow links, these have blue links. 2 new guides, got hardware for this one. 2 new tensioners and a bunch of seals and O-rings and gaskets and whatnot. Okay, you guys see the inner timing chain right here? Follow it all the way down. See right here? This is that little cover that I dropped down when I flipped the valve cover over. Never would have gotten that out if I wasn't taking this whole thing apart. So that's just a good lesson on how careful you need to be when you take a valve cover off, not to drop anything down in the engine. So before I remove the timing chain tensioners and remove the chains, I want to loosen the bolts holding the pulleys on, because we're going to need to change those pulleys, or I'm going to be changing the pulleys anyway. And it would be nice to use the chain tension to my advantage. So I'm going to see if I can raise the engine high enough that I can get a tool on there. I'm trying to use my impact for this. Just makes it easier. These have over 100 foot-pounds of force on them, so. But that just makes easy work of it. If you didn't have if you don't have an impact wrench, you have to hold the crankshaft, counter hold the crankshaft with a 26 millimeter wrench right here, and then use a breaker bar. So that sprocket kind of came off already, but no big deal. Actually, that might be a little bit of a big deal, because I didn't want those to move in relation to each other. So wonderful. Let's see. I think what I'll do is take the tensioner off. It's okay. These sprockets only go on. There's a little keyway, so they can only go on in one particular way. So I'm going to take the tensioner off right now, and I'll put the chain back on, and I'll just rotate and readjust and just fix whatever came off right there. Okay, get the tensioner off. It's 2 10s. Oops. I'm going to keep the bolts with the tensioner. All right, I've fixed things. You know, to prevent that from happening to you, I would use a 26 millimeter wrench to hold the camshaft in place. That way it doesn't spin like that. Because that's what happened. This camshaft spun that way and just kind of got off alignment. But when these things are all aligned and in place, you'll notice that the keyway in each sprocket is pointing up. And these ones actually have painted, there are 2 marks on either sprocket, and the outside mark here is used and the outside mark here is used. And you can see there's a little bit of paint. Somebody at the factory, you know, ran a marker over this and ran a marker over that right there, and the same thing down here. So anyway, that's how it goes on. I have that tensioner off, and these can just come off now. Now, the interesting thing about this bottom the bottom shaft and the bottom chain is you can see the paint mark is right here, but the chain mark is over here, and that would lead you to believe that I didn't have everything correctly aligned, but I actually do. I checked it, I rotated it around several times, and for some reason the chain, the lower chain happens to be out of position. We've owned this car since day one, my mother has, so I know that no other work has been done to this. This job's never been done before. This is how it came from the factory. So, you know, kind of interesting there. According to all the diagrams I can find and see in the manual and everything, this is the correct alignment of the idler gear right here. And it's also the correct alignment of the crankshaft down there. In fact, I stuck a screwdriver down a long screwdriver down spark plug hole number 1 on cylinder number 1, and rotated it back and forth, and I can tell that this is at top dead center on cylinder 1. So the pulleys are all in alignment. It's just that they happen to put this chain on incorrectly, I guess. Not really sure what's up with that, but not a big deal. I'm gonna be getting it off, and I think now I'll just pull off this lower tensioner as well. Be careful of the cylinder head gasket right here. For some reason it just sticks out into the timing chain covers. Again, really weird. What fell? Oh, the piston on the tensioner fell. No big deal. Okay. So this guide down here should just pull off. Oh, no, okay. There's an Allen bolt holding it in. Okay, let's get that Allen bolt out. Again, 6 mil. Okay, so that's the one of the tensioners. We have 2 more Allen bolts here, same size, holding the other tensioner in. It's actually a guide. Those are both chain guides, I suppose. Okay, we're up either too high or not high enough. I think not high enough. Hopefully we can go up a little higher. Okay. It's not working out, so I'll lower it. All right, see if I can get it from underneath. Okay. And we're out. So our chain is pretty much free. And we can see that this is just an idler pulley. It spins freely. So we'll just move it into the proper alignment. This sprocket and the one behind it, it's all one unit, so you can't change the alignment of them. And probably what's going to happen is I'm going to have to undo this bolt in order to get this off. This is a 19. Be careful of the filler port on the air conditioning line here. Long bolt and washer, and there goes the gear. So on the gear, there's actually an inner part. This part stays behind. It's going to be transferred over to the new idler gear. So the new idler gear this is what gets changed. Okay, now on the crankshaft, you can see that there's this gear right here for the oil pump that just slides right off. There's a key on the top. Again, the key is just straight at the 12 o'clock position right now. So that comes off, and we can see that there's a little indent on the front of it. Hopefully you can see that little indent on the front. It's on the bottom. I think that signifies that that's the out position. So you got to see that little indent facing towards you. And then we should be able to pull off the idler gear. Again, the little notch is sort of down at, what is that, 5 o'clock? And the keyway is up again. Keyway on the crankshaft is at the 12 o'clock position. Okay, this is where the oil actually enters the engine. This is the output from the oil pump. Goes into all the oil passages on the engine. So you notice there's this little thing right here. It's actually a little gasket, rubber molded gasket in a metal sleeve kind of thing. And I have a replacement one in my kit, so I'm gonna use it. Even though it's a different color, that's the one. All right, here's our new crankshaft gear with the, where is it? Oh, okay, that was my bad. I put it on the wrong way. So this little, the little end right there goes in this way. So now we can see the little mark for the timing. And we'll put this back on. Again, that little indent goes out. Keyway goes up. I think next I want to get this chain guide in here. It goes this way. You can see that this the metal is flat on this end, but there's a little indent on the outside. So the flat end goes against the engine. Best to do that from below. See if we can slip this chain down around. Yeah, we can get it on there. So I don't want to drop this gear. But the real trick is we got to get the chain on the right spot on the gear. So I'm going to go for one of these chain links. Hopefully I'm picking the right one. There are two chain links. And I can see that the little indent is right there. I can see that the blue chain link, the other blue chain link, is right down around where I know the mark is on that lower sprocket. So I think I picked the right link. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this on here. The mark is right here. It's right on the chain link. The bottom mark is actually facing the bottom, which is where it should be. And now I'm going to go down below and see if I've got the chain in the right position. I think that I possibly do. I'm going to slip the chain onto the gear as well. Okay, I'm actually going to pull off the oil gear first while we do this, because it's actually hiding where that little indent is. But you see, the mark is there. So that's where the chain needs to be. I want it to have some tension. So there. You can see that all the slack is on this side. That's where it needs to be, because we're gonna have the tensioner pull the slack up like that. But you can see the link, the blue link, is where the indent is. Hopefully, we can see where that indent is. So, yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll slip this back on. So let's get this, let's get the tensioner guide where it should be. Okay, got that tightened. Let's tighten up this lower bolt. And tighten the upper bolt. Oh wait, that was the lower. So this is our tensioner guide, and we just need to get the new tensioner on there. It's tricky, can't see the holes from above here. Okay, I'm gonna pull out one of the bolts for now so it doesn't interfere. I'm just trying to thread that top one in. Okay, I think I found it. Yeah, I did. Okay. Top one's in. Let's get this bottom one in. Don't over tighten those. So I'm gonna double check, make sure our alignment's correct. Looks like it is. And I'm just gonna pull this pin, set the tensioner. All right, now for the top chain, it's actually pretty easy. Again, you can see where the indents are. These are just, it's the same pulley. On the outside one, you use this indent. On this side one, you use that indent. So we'll align it. The marks, the colored links on this chain, by the way, are equidistant. There's 7 normal links in between each one of them. So Doesn't matter which one you choose. So I'm just slipping it in. Again, it's like that. You get the inside indents and outside indents. We're using the outside indents. The keyways have to be at 12 o'clock. We're going to slip this on. The bottom indent is facing down. That's at 6 o'clock. Okay, I need to nudge this camshaft slightly counterclockwise in order to get it to align. So I've got it there. This just needs to move just a little bit right there. There. Like that. And this one over here like that. So now we've got tension here, tension here. All the slack is on this side. We've got all the links in alignment. This one's here, that one's there, this one's right here. All right, now we can put these bolts on. And confirm, double confirm your alignment's good. Okay, new tensioner. Again, don't over tighten these either. I'll pull out the little pin. Now we have tension on that as well. I'm a little concerned at the lack of tension, actually. Okay, I see what happened is this one slipped off a little bit. Okay, so I've corrected it. Now all the sockets are on, everything's in alignment, all good. So the torque on this bottom one is 60 foot-pounds. Now the torque on these top ones is going to be about 125 in that range. So it's quite a bit. Helps to counter hold them, I think. It's a lot of torque. Whew. Looking good. Everything looks set. By the way, I did spend about an hour a little while ago with a gasket scraper, scraping all the old RTV off of all of these surfaces. So that's an important thing to do. Well, you'll notice here two different covers. This is the one that I just tried to fit on. It didn't fit, okay? I even took the little gear off that goes right here to just try to, you know, I took all the RTV off, tried to dry fit it, and it just won't fit on. It's improperly machined. So I have just purchased this one. This is a Dorman made product. I'll put the part number up on the screen right now. I did a test fit with this one, and this one fits. So I'm going to return this one and install this one. Okay, so I've got the RTV bead put on both sides. I've also got a little bit of a bead run on the top, as instructed by the service manual. It's going to be really tricky getting this thing up in place without smushing the RTV. That is the trickiest part about this, but I've made sure that I can test fit this up easily several times, so I know that the engine is just at the right height to be able to do it. And I've sort of made a note of how I've been doing it, I think. It is a little tricky. And that little gasket thing is gonna fall, of course. I think I'll just probably put it on the cover. Hopefully it holds. course, it's more difficult to get this in when it really counts, right? Yeah, that's the way we gotta go. I gotta go over to that side and then come back forward. Right, okay. So make sure that gasket's in, which it is. It's that little gasket on the oil hole. Go up top, make sure that it's in up top here. Yeah, and then push it home on the bottom. Great, cool. It's home, it's in. Very excellent. Now I managed to figure out which bolt to go where beforehand. I had to just like resort through all of my bolts. They're basically all the 10s. Most of them are this size, except for the 3 that actually hold this in. Remember, this actually, you know, 3 of these bolts are the bolts that hold this pulley in. And if you'll remember me saying, this bolt down on the bottom there was slightly longer than the other ones. That's because of the little length of this, the thickness of this bracket right here. The top one is a little longer. The back one is a number 12 that's just as long. So those are the 2 top bolts. Okay. We'll probably put those in last, actually. The bolts that are this length go down here below. There are 5 of them. And remember to just get them threaded in first. Don't tighten them all the way until you have everything threaded in. That's just the best way to do it. 4 bottom ones that you can easily see, and this 5th one went up right here. Okay, good enough. There's a 6th bolt of that same size, which actually goes in the middle one right here. And remember, the one below it there and this one here are part of that bracket. There's a 12 millimeter short bolt, looks like this, that actually goes in the hole that's basically hidden by this little piece right here. But it's down, it's back here, and it's kind of hard to get access to. But you'll see on the cover that the hole on the cover is a little bigger, so that's how you know which ones are the 12s. This one right here and the one immediately below it. So I'm sorry you can't see it, but that's where it goes. Now, the only ones we have left are gonna be for this, the bracket for this. It's like this. That's the way it goes. Okay, just like that. So now we'll put in those 3 bolts. So of those 3 bolts, again, they're the longest ones. There's a 12 and 2 10s. Again, this one is just slightly longer than all those other ones I just put in, all those other 10s. And this is the longest 10. So we'll start with the longest 10 because it's this one right up here. It'll just sort of anchor it in. And I'm going to try to screw this in as far as possible so that it keeps the bracket from flopping all over the place. The shortest 10 goes down here. Tricky getting that in. Okay, it'll be tricky starting that too. Longest 12 up over here. Make sure that the head gasket is kind of stuck down on the RTV. You don't want that RTV drying with the head gasket not stuck down all the way, depending on how long it takes you between steps here. All right, now we got to tighten these. So you know what, guys? The torque on these is like, for the 10 millimeter bolts, it's 5 foot-pounds, and for the 12s, it's like 12 foot-pounds. That's so small that I'm not even going to use a torque wrench for that. I'm just going to do that by hand, because I can just feel it. I mean, it's just a little bit tight. That's kind of all you need. If you can see the RTV, basically do it until you see the RTV squeezing out. You don't want to, just barely starting to squeeze out, I should say. You don't want to keep on doing it and doing it and make it so tight that it just squeezes all the RTV out, and then the RTV can't really do its job. So back here, this right here is actually the oil return line, for lack of a better phrase, and it's got 3 small 10mm bolts that bolted in, 2 from the top and 1 from below. It still had its gasket stuck to it, so I didn't mess with it. Hopefully that won't be a problem. Generally don't want to put RTV where oil passages are going to go, because you don't want to risk little bits of it coming off and floating around in the oil system and causing all sorts of problems. Yeah, very awkward access on this whole car. I think I mentioned that. Okay, I think before I bolt these in fully, I want to put that one up in there from the bottom. So that's it right up in there. I just screwed it in. It's the one on the back, if we remember it being removed. So now that it's on, let's get it tightened up. Okay. Switch back to a regular size here. So the question here is the engine too high to put the power steering pump back on here? I'm starting to wonder if I have this right. I realize now where it goes. It actually went on this top bolt for the bracket for the pulley as well, because there's a little locating pin right below it, and there's also a little locating hole on the bracket for the power steering pump. So it actually went right there. We'll pull this out because it went on this bolt right here. Okay. Now I'm not sure if there is enough room when we raised it this high to put this on. Yeah, I don't think there is, so we'll have to go down again. And I think we're probably going to put this at normal height. Okay, here we go. Hopefully that's in the right spot. Down below, I mean. We'll need to be able to slip the bolts on from down below. Why don't we do that? Okay, I actually needed to back off that bolt just a tad up top there, that 12 mil, so I can move this up into place. Okay, took a little doing, but I finally got them started. Okay, before I fully tighten that, make sure this other one's going in. Okay. All right. Now we can tighten this bolt. All right, time for the top half of the cover to be on. I've also put some RTV on the bottom there, a little thin layer. I just got some on the chain here. I don't really like that. You gotta be careful. Okay. Okay, so the bolts for this, there are 3 number 10s. They actually go down from this angle, down from above, vertical. Technically this one was in the back here. That one, you know, I guess that should have been part of the lower cover bolts, but I pulled it out as part of the top cover bolts. And what you have left are 2 short number 12s and 2 long number 12s. And you should be able to figure out where those go, The long ones stick out further. 2 back here, 1 here, and 1 back in here. That little hidden one. Okay, let's tighten these ones in. So I had just enough gray RTV left to make it around this case. So yay. Gotta get up and around that motor mount. And I've got my bolts ready. So those were 4 long ones in the back, 2 smaller ones up front here. Okay. Again, I'm just kind of tightening them until I see the RTV squish out. You know it's tight enough when you see the RTV squish. So now I got the bolts that went inside the lower oil cover, and I can tell which ones they are because they're very clean on the outside. So we got 4 12s. And then you had 2 10s that were up front here. Okay, I see RTV squishing all the way around, so I'm confident that it's not going to leak. But that is not, that's not the end of the bolts for the lower cover. Again, there are 2 more way in the back there that were really difficult to get out, and they went up in through here. I don't think they intended for this oil cover to come off with the transmission still attached, the Nissan engineers. If they did, they would have put access holes up through the cover like on a BMW. You really need a good swivel for this. This sort of universal joint swivel. Okay. I've got 3 odd ones and 1 longer one. Okay, it looks like these are the right ones. I can tell because the one back up here is actually sticking out a little farther. So that's got to be the little longer one. There are a lot of bolts on this job, by the way, and I'm realizing now I didn't organize them correctly when I took them off. So come up with a better organization system when you do this. Group the bolts with the parts you take off if you can. That's a really good way to organize stuff. Yeah, these are definitely the right bolts for this. Now, I remember that this bolt with this little built-in washer is what went here for the engine mount. That much I remember. There are two of them. I've got two of those bolts. I don't remember where the other one went right now. But I remember what it was grouped with, so I'll figure it out. So I figured out that this bolt with the captive washer on it and this really long bolt go on the rear engine mount. The rear long one was easy. There's only one of those, and I remember it. The two through bolts for the front and back engine mounts are actually shorter. This goes all the way through the engine mount and into the transmission. Then we just got this shorter bolt which goes behind it. Let's get this bottom one loose again. Okay, that was the problem. Wow, that was a lot. Okay, that's good. Let's see if we can get this one up here. Okay. Okay. Cool. So those are the rear engine mount bolts. Okay, let's do this cover. It's for the torque converter bolts if you ever have to take the transmission off. In a good location on the bottom. So they did that right. That's something that BMW does wrong. It's time to get this bracket back in. I was smart enough to leave these bolts with it. And I'm glad that they put these little bosses right here so that they wouldn't fall. That's a smart thing. This is a giant bracket, 5 volts. Might be a little over-engineered. Okay. Put the air conditioner back up on here. Wow, seriously, this was the only smart thing they did, was putting these little bosses on here. That just makes it very convenient. Good going, Nissan, for that. Again, not all the way. All right, we'll have to get the top ones. I'm just gonna go get the top ones started. Then we can tighten the bottom ones and move on to tightening the top ones. Using my gear wrench to kind of run them down. There's a lot of weight on them right now, so I can't really screw them in by hand. So now we can get these on and tight. Let's get the oil pickup tube in here. And a little baffle plate. Okay, I found some red RTV that I had, so used that. It's basically the same stuff. I think it just sets quicker. Okay, done with that. Let's put our engine pulley back on. Crank pulley. Not exactly sure how they would expect you to torque that without an impact. It's 105 to 112, and I would guess that you probably counterhold one of the camshafts in order to prevent it from turning. That should be pretty good. It's time to put this fuse box back. So this front engine mount bracket goes back on. It had these 3 17s and a smaller 14. Let me get the belt back on, just up in the place at least. There. So it'll basically go like that. So I forgot to put this bracket on. It actually went on here where these 2 17s are. Actually, wait a minute. I don't think it's the top one. I believe it's, yeah. It's not the top one, it's the 2 middle ones. Or I guess the lower 2 17s. The torque on these is really tight. Okay, put this alternator back on. I switched the pulleys, by the way, just now. Now we got the smaller pulley on there like it should have, at least for this later model, 2001. The longer bolt goes on this side. You should be able to tell that. Whenever you're kind of unsure about bolts, just, you know, look at the hole they go into and try to judge how far in they go. That's how you figure that out. All right, leave it just a little bit loose. Engine mount. Actually, no, I always forget this, but This bracket goes next. I always forget that. And I've done this a couple of times. Okay. You can put this bracket on. This bolt has a 14 mil head. That's how you know which one that is. One of these nuts goes here. Should have made sure that the alternator tension bolt was started first. That was kind of dumb. Make sure these are loose. You can slide this alternator forward. I'm betting that there's a little wiggle room in the lower bracket too, and I made it too far down. I don't usually take that bracket off, so let's go ahead and loosen those 217s. Okay, yeah, that's better. So this adjuster needs to be able to screw into the top of the alternator here. So I finally got it on there. Had to take this top bolt off again. It just sort of needs to go on. Here's the tensioner bolt. Okay, tensioner bolt goes towards the bottom. That little thing can either flip up or can flip down. Flips down. Okay, well now that we've got that on, we can tighten all these things. Okay, so while I've got that, I've got the engine mount out of there, this is the time to actually put the belt up and on. Oh, suddenly that got easier because we slipped off of this pulley, but whatever, we're on. So let's tension the alternator. You don't want to go too tight on this. Good belt tension is when you can't twist it more than halfway, like that, at the widest point. So that's pretty good tension. Again, not too tight. Let's lock the alternator in place here. Okay, and we'll tighten the lower bolts. That one and this one. This one's difficult. Okay, so now we can do the engine, of course. Of course, don't put this bracket in until the engine mounts in. You know, I always forget the order of this. I was thinking to myself, there's a reason not to do that. Because it blocks one of these bolts. Okay, Engine mount. It's easier to slip this bolt in right now. So I'm tightening the engine mount bolts there, and got the bracket back on again, 14 mil here, and that is a 12 right there. And then plug in the harness back in. That's the alternator. That's the positive cable for the alternator. And oh, it looks like I got the wrong socket there, but while I have it, let's get that bolt and switch to a 12. And I'm using a light touch when I put that one on. There's also a ground cable that connects to the back of the alternator there. It's an 8mm. And not to forget that little connector for the coolant temperature. So let's put the spark plugs back in. You want to make damn sure that you never cross thread a spark plug. That's just a nightmare you don't want to have. Don't over tighten them either. They don't need to be over tightened. Just very gently, you got to feel if there's any resistance. If it doesn't just spin nice and easily, you're cross threading it. Use a special spark plug socket with a little piece of rubber inside. You don't have to. You can use a little magnet to lower it down and just kind of twist it in place. Once it catches a couple of threads, you can pull your magnet off. It's not the best way to do it because you know you risk cross threading that way because you don't really have as much feel. Grab a spark plug socket if you can. All right, I'm gonna just pour some of the oil on top of the cam here. Careful not to get it down into the spark plug hole. That way we're just nice and lubricated. Okay, I have a brand new valve cover gasket, and I put a couple dabs of RTV in a couple of the areas underneath here, just so that the gasket would stick to into the slot of the valve cover and wouldn't come out while I was trying to get it in place, lower it in place. And I've got some more RTV here, and you just want to put a couple of dabs on the corners here. You just want to put a bead on the corner, I should say, because the rubber has a tough time sealing on these right angles, or these sharp angles. Put it right here too. I'm being really messy here. Also put it where the two halves of the case join, right here. That's important. Okay, that's all you need to do. The little inner gasket here actually has a flat spot on one side. That's going to go towards the front here because the caps right here are a little closer to the spark plug holes. Okay, so we can just lower that into place. Came with new caps and grommets. So I'm going to do them in a spiral pattern to 7 foot-pounds. Yeah, I guess that got stripped out. All right, let's get our spark plugs back in place. This little bolt is for this bracket over here. And finally this bolt. Let's not forget this though. Accelerator cable. Okay, now we are done up top. I don't want to forget to add oil to the engine. About 4.5 quarts should do it. Yeah, perfect. Of course, it'll take some to fill up that, that oil filter, so I'll check it again. Let's not forget the overflow tank. And I will reconnect the battery while I'm up here. Let's see if we can put the exhaust back on. Yeah, that'll go back on. Okay. I think that back one's stripped out on me, but oh well. So, take the jack down. Not to forget the air conditioning belt, which I did forget. Okay, that should be good. Okay, this is the moment of truth. That was just belt noise. Well, that is a success and then some. I'm seriously happy. Wow, that thing is nice and quiet now, just like it should be. Let's double check the oil level. Yeah, we're about 2/3. Okay, that'll do her. So there we have it. That's how you fix the problem. I would call this a medium difficult job. There are a lot of bolts. It's a lot to keep track of. I would suggest putting bolts with parts as you take them off. That way you don't lose track. Hey, if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing. I've got a lot of great videos coming up in the future. Thanks for watching.